Welcome to Whether or Not and to What Degree podcast. I'm First Alert Chief Meteorologist Kendra Kent, joined by meteorologist Chrissy Kohler. And we're talking about a fun topic today, and that's a white Christmas. Chrissy, have you ever experienced one?
I have.
Okay.
I grew up in Ohio.
That's right.
So it's a little more common the further north you go. Now, we didn't have white Christmases every year, though. It just depended on the year whether or not we got one. But certainly there were several years that we did have white Christmases. So it's always nice.
Well, and coming up, we're going to talk about the likelihood of a white Christmas. I imagine the percentage in Ohio is much, much higher than some other areas. Well, I actually experienced a white Christmas in Galveston, Texas.
Okay.
Very
all the
weird.
way in Texas.
All the way in Texas in 2004. And it was just one of those crazy systems. An area of low pressure went just south enough, had enough cold air with it. Kind of like what we're going to experience closer to Christmas, but just with a little more moisture in Texas. And then I also had one here, which we've been talking about. And this is where we'll talk about the white Christmases past. But from 2010 was when we had another white Christmas. So those are my two, and very memorable. But it's kind of a bummer I didn't have kids for either of them. My kiddos really want one, and I'm sure Knox does too.
Yeah, well, I don't think he's old enough to quite understand it yet,
really
but I'm sure once he gets a little bit older, he will start to. My parents don't live there anymore, so now we don't have an excuse to be in Ohio at Christmas time. So who knows if we'll get another one, unless we get one here, of course.
It's not looking super likely for 2022, but you never know. But let's take a look at this first graphic, kind of defining what a white Christmas is, because you might think, well, maybe it's just a few flakes flying around, but there are actually some solid criteria here, Chrissy.
Yeah, 1 inch of snow on the ground on December 25th is what you need to get that. And as Kendra just mentioned, Kendra, you're just talking about, that's really one of the big ones for us here in Greenville and Asheville is that 2010 one. Yeah,
and I forgot actually that Asheville got so much more than 1.6 inches there at 8.1. But the one before that in Greenville had been a while. We were starved for a white Christmas, 1963 and then 1909. So really it's like a once in about every 50 to 60 year event for our area. So it was really special to get it in 2010. And then mountains in the Asheville area has seen it a bit more, which we would expect up in the higher terrain for sure.
So you were of course working during that snowstorm in 2010, right, Kendra?
Yeah, and it was one of those really nice ones where the snow stuck to the grass, but the roads remained warm enough, and temperatures went above freezing during the day. So it didn't last super long, but at least it wasn't icy everywhere. And that was nice because I was here kind of covering the lead up to it. And then we drove to Alabama where they also got snow.
Wow.
So I saw snow in 2 different states on Christmas Day, which was just crazy. And again, even Alabama doesn't typically see that either. So
no, that's for sure.
A big event for us. But yeah, we've seen snow, and then we've also had some sleet at times on Christmas Day and Christmas Eve, which is not nearly as exciting, but it's actually documented by National Weather Service. So we can take a look at that graphic. I think that's the next one we have in line, or we'll see.
There we go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So no, you got it. In 1966, a trace of snow. 1969, also a trace of snow on Christmas Day. And then a trace of sleet, not nearly as fun in 1975 there. 2009, we had sleet at GSP. I remember that one, but didn't cause any big problems. And of course, 2010. And then fun fact, in 2020, we did have a few flurries across the area on Christmas Eve night into Christmas morning, but didn't really amount to a whole lot.
Yeah, just a few flurries though. That's always nice, I think, especially when you're from around here and it's such a rare event. You're asking me about white Christmases, and there was one year, Kendra, I remember taking my husband to Ohio, and it was not a white Christmas, but it started snowing on Christmas Day, and he ran outside in his t-shirt and was running around with the flakes around. He's like a little kid, because it's just he grew up in Miami and then moved to Atlanta, and so he had never experienced a white Christmas. So I think even just like a few flakes flying on Christmas Day is really special for people who have never experienced that, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that kids really want it, of course, every year, and it doesn't look like it's going to pan out this year, but it will certainly be cold enough. I mean, it is going to be intensely cold across our area. We'll be talking more about that in our newscast leading up to Christmas. But if you're wondering what our chances are of seeing a white Christmas across our area, here's the deal. You can see, like we expected, up toward Ohio, a little bit better, but much higher when you go into northern Minnesota, the Dakotas, but ours, not so much. Yeah, a little bit higher in the mountains, it looks like there. at, what is that, 20%?
Once you get out of the valleys, you get
Yeah.
kind of that 10 to 25%, and then the very tippy tops of our mountains in North Carolina, you're talking a 25 to 40%, which is, of course, certainly some of the best odds. So if you're trying to get that,
Go hang out at Mount Mitchell and
Yeah.
you'll possibly see some of that.
The
But
higher the
anyway,
better.
we wish we could forecast one for the kids this year, but it doesn't look like it's going to pan out. But, you know,
No.
we just wanted to talk about a little white Christmas. And if you're ever wanting to submit a subject for our podcast where we get to talk a little bit more about fun weather stuff and more time than our producers will give us on a normal newscast, you can email us, kendra.kent@foxcarolina.com or chrissy.kohler@foxcarolina.com. We'd love to hear from you, and we hope you have a very Merry Christmas.